Good morning, Long Beach. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends, partners, guests. Good morning and welcome. I'm Noel Hacegaba, the Managing Director of Commercial Operations and the Chief Commercial Officer at the Port of Long Beach. And I have the pleasure of serving as your Master of Ceremonies this morning. Our first order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please take your seats. We are elated that you have accepted our invitation to attend this year's State of the Port. This is our annual opportunity to share with our community, our customers, and all of our industry partners our results for 2014 and the many exciting things ahead in 2015 and beyond. But it's more than just an update. Today, January 29th, is a historic day. Listen to these notable events in history that took place on this very day. In 1861, Kansas became the 34th state of the Union. The first successful gasoline-driven car was patented on this day in 1886. Now fast forward to 1968, when Jimi Hendrix and Pete Townsend waged a battle of guitars, still considered by many the greatest ever. Then on January 29th, 1985, the Dow Jones Industrial Average peaked at, get this, 1,292 points. How things have changed. Now, how many of you are planning to watch the Super Bowl this weekend? All right, we've got some fans over here. Here's some Super Bowl history. On this day in 1995, in Super Bowl 29, the San Francisco 49ers defeated the San Diego Chargers, becoming the first team in the league to win 5 Super Bowl championships. And as far as we know, there is no evidence of PDFs. You all know what a PDF is, right? That's a purposely deflated football. Now, years from now, all of us here today will also remember January 29th for this day, this State of the Port, as the first day of a new vision and a new direction for our port. And we are thrilled that you are here to witness the unveiling of that new vision by our Chief Executive, John Slangerup. But before John takes the podium, we will hear from our Mayor, Robert Garcia, as well as our Harbor Commission President, Doug Drummond, and Vice President, Rich Dines. And before we welcome our Mayor, it's my great pleasure to introduce some government officials who are here with us today. Now this year I'm feeling a little more generous, so I have decided to lift the one clap quota. You are free to clap as long and as loud as you would like, but only while the applause sign appears on the screen behind me. Once the applause sign disappears, we ought to be able to hear a zero-emission vehicle pass by, which means please don't clap until I'm through with the list. To make sure we got our instructions down right, we're going to have some practice. And I'd like for you to join me. And this applause, by the way, was for the men and women of the Long Beach Convention Center Pacific Ballroom who are serving us today. Let's give them another round of applause. Joining us today, Mayor Robert Garcia, our City Attorney Charles Parkin, our City Auditor Laura Dowd, City Prosecutor Doug Halbert. From the City Council, we have Councilwoman Susie Price, Councilwoman Stacy Mungo, Councilmember Roberto Uranga, Councilman Al Austin, Councilman Rex Richardson. Also with us today are Police Chief Robert Luna and Fire Chief Mike Dury. I would also like to introduce our Captain of the Port from the U.S. Coast Guard, Jennifer Williams. Also joining us today are representatives from the offices of U.S. Senators Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, Congress members Janice Hahn and Alan Lowenthal, State Senators Ricardo Lara, Isidore Hall, Tony Mendoza, and Janet Nguyen. State Assembly members Mike Gibson, Patrick O'Donnell, and Anthony Rendon. We also have representatives with us from Vice Mayor Suja Lowenthal's office, as well as the office of Council Member Lena Gonzalez. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. Our first speaker has served the community since 2009 as City Councilman for the 1st District and later Vice Mayor before being elected the 28th Mayor for the City of Long Beach this past summer. Mayor Garcia fully understands the importance of international trade and the port to our great city, and City Hall has joined hands with the Harbor Commission and our new Chief Executive in heralding a new era of economic growth and environmental stewardship for the citizens of Long Beach, the port, and our customers. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mayor Robert Garcia.
Well, good morning. I'm loving this applause thing, which I think we should get one of those for city council meetings.
Oh, I love that. Okay, where's my staff? Please get me one of these applause things. It's always a pleasure to be with the port, to be with the leadership of the port, and to really participate in this great annual event that brings all of us together to really talk about the future of our most important economic engine in the city of Long Beach and really the region, and that's the Port of Long Beach. So a huge round of applause for all of the port leadership, John Slangerup, and for all the work they do. Where's that applause thing? Ah, there we go. This morning we are going to hear from John Slangerup and get an update on the state of the port. We all know that the port has gone through and continues to go through difficult times. There's no surprise, no secret that congestion and issues of negotiations between the ILWU and the PMA continue to cause us challenges. But what's important for us to note that in spite of the difficult work ahead and the work that we're in right now, the port is moving forward in a positive direction. And I'm very excited for all of you to hear tonight from our Chief Executive on that progress and those goals. It's also important for us to note that while this time has been difficult, particularly when it comes to the issues of the negotiation table, we're closer today to an agreement that we've been throughout the entire process. And having just yesterday had conversations with both the PMA and the ILWU, I'm feeling confident that in the course of the next couple of weeks, we will finally see that this whole process and this crisis at the port behind us, which will be a great thing. As we all know, economic development is important for all of us. And at the City of Long Beach, we look to the port to provide a vast majority of our jobs. We look to the port to assist us with training the workforce of tomorrow. And we look to the port to provide leadership on the issue of economic development, growth, and goods movement. I'm proud that the port is going to be celebrating this year the 10th anniversary of the Green Port Policy. I'm proud that the port is working with us at the city to build a new port headquarters and civic center complex here in downtown. I'm proud that the port continues to lead and has listened to the call to increase internships and opportunity for young people throughout the city of Long Beach. And I also want to introduce you tonight. There's a few people here that I think also will deserve a round of applause. The port has invited to join us today a number of high school students. In fact, there's, I believe, close to 100 high school students that are here today that are joining us from Long Beach Unified this morning. And I want to thank them for listening, for participating, and for being interested in the port. They are our future port leaders. And these students are here with their dedicated teachers, Kathleen O'Neill from the California Academy of Math and Science, and Libby Huff from Poly High School, and Steve Marsh from Cabrillo. So can we give all the students a big round of applause for being here? And to close, I just want to say that I have 100% confidence in John's leadership at the port and the leadership of our Board of Harbor Commissioners. They are doing a great job of guiding this port to growth, and we will continue to have growth. With that, I want to bring up to the podium the head of our commission, the president of our Harbor Commission here, who's doing a great job. We all know his work, having served on the council as vice mayor, and of course, just the work he's done through the police department, and now as head of our commission. So if you'll also join me in a big round of applause as we welcome the board president of our Harbor Commission, Doug Drummond. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia, and good morning. I'm so proud to have served the city these many years as police officer, city council member, vice mayor, harbor commissioner. This is really a great, great city. The commissioners at the Port of Long Beach have a long history of momentous, game-changing leadership that has contributed to the betterment of our city and international trade. I and the entire board of directors of the Harbor Commission are honored to follow in the steps of these commission giants and to add to the foundation they have established. They built the port here in 1911 in the face of competition from other viable West Coast locations. They built the terminals, bridges, waterways, and other infrastructure that made it possible to link us to the world. During critical times, they made a home at the Port of Long Beach for the United States Navy. They embraced containerization from the very beginning and helped to change the face of world trade. They built the Alameda Corridor, a revolutionary idea to speed trains below grade from the port to central rail hubs without disrupting street traffic. They adopted a landmark green policy 10 years ago that began the transformation of ports worldwide from major global polluters to responsible citizens. Thank you. All these breakthroughs and much more are chronicled in a book contracted by the Harbor Commission, which we will proudly release this summer, titled Port Town. It is the definitive history of how the people of Long Beach built, defended, and profited from their harbor. It's written by our good friends, George and Carmela Cunningham. I know many of you know them. For many years, they published a widely read newsletter in the port. George and Carmela, will you please stand? Thank you. The launch of their outstanding book is set for the Long Beach Public Library Foundation's annual Grape Expectations event, June 20th at the Convention Center. Judging from the size of this crowd, I'd say buy your tickets early. There will also be a port-sponsored history exhibit in cooperation with the Long Beach Historical Society. You all know I'm a history buff, but I think you will be too when you've read about our port and this city's remarkable history of innovation and progress. It's a great look at the past, but it's also about the city. It's critical that our current Board of Harbor Commissioners can build on this past to address present and future challenges and opportunities. The team I serve with now is a remarkable group, working in sync, each contributing to his or her particular strengths, leading to unified solutions. We are all proud Long Beach residents, and we're honored to contribute to this great community by serving on the Harbor Commission. I'd like you to meet them. Would my fellow commissioners please come up onto the stage? Beginning with our most recent member, Tracy Egoscue, joined the Harbor Commission in September. She was Mayor Garcia's very first Harbor Commission appointee, and he couldn't have made a better choice.
Good morning.
Commissioner Egoscue is a Long Beach-based environmental attorney, a former Deputy Attorney General of the state of California, and she served as the executive officer of the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board. She's very experienced and is an environmental advocate. Oh, a hand for Tracy. Next is Luann Bynum, who was appointed this past May and is Executive Vice President for the Long Beach City College District. She has more than 25 years of experience in education and a focus on developing a well-trained workforce, including port-related partnerships. At City College, she has been part of the management team that brought in and administered more than $120 million in grants and contracts. A hand for Luann. Next, Lorianne Farrell. Lorianne is former Controller and Chief Financial Officer of the City of Long Beach, now serves as Director of Finance for the City of Huntington Beach. Earlier in her career, she served as Administrative Services Director for the City of Lomita, Financial Advisor at Smith Barney Citigroup, and other finance-related jobs for New York City and State. A hand for Lorianne. The mayor was kind enough to share a little about my background, so our final introduction is Vice President Rich Dines. We were both appointed in August of 2011. Vice President Dines is a Marine clerk with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, bringing us more than 15 years of experience on the waterfront. None of us is better versed on terminal operations. He has been actively involved in long-range efforts to improve port efficiency and productivity. He chairs our Port Productivity Committee with Commissioner Farrell. He's a champion for alternative energy and spearheaded the port's groundbreaking energy policy that was adopted in 2013. What a great team. And I suppose you've noticed after all these years, the women today have the majority on the board. Now, please welcome Vice President Dines to make the next introduction.
Thank you, President Drummond. It's really an honor to serve with you and all of our fellow Harbor Commissioners. It's also my pleasure to collaborate with our Harbor Department staff, an extraordinary team of top professionals. Our new Chief Executive, John Slangerup, leads a team with a long legacy of port achievements. With his guidance, we have promoted leaders from within our staff, and we're adding outstanding new people from outside to better serve our stakeholders and this great community. It's become a personal tradition at our board meetings for me to congratulate those being promoted and to welcome each of our new employees. We've really been busy. 42 new hires and 33 promotions since July. Let's welcome them with a round of applause. Thank you. Of course, the most important new member of our team is Chief Executive John Slangerup. He was the unanimous choice of the Harbor Commission to lead our port. He began work on the 1st of July, just a couple of weeks before Dr. Robert Garcia was sworn in as mayor. His 34 years of experience in both global logistics and environmental technologies singled him out from other candidates, and he understands the complexities of running a large operation. Culminating a distinguished 20-year career with FedEx as president of FedEx Canada, he led the company's transformation from a small regional domestic courier operation into Canada's leading international express logistics company. Following FedEx, he served as a CEO, board member, and investor of technology companies focused on bringing leading-edge products to market in the fields of ballast water treatment and clean energy. In just under 7 months, he has made a major impact on our operations and organization, and we couldn't be more pleased with his bold direction. But this is just the beginning. The best is yet to come. Please welcome Chief Executive John Slangerup presenting this year's State of the Port Address.
Thanks. Well, Good morning, everybody. What a crowd. This is fantastic. Thank you for sharing your morning with us. And thanks to this wonderful welcome that I've received. I can't tell you how fortunate I am to have the support of such a strong board, all of whom are deeply committed to the future of Long Beach and to our world-class port. Without a doubt, the greatest benefit of this job is having the chance, the opportunity to work with this extraordinary team at the Port of Long Beach. I particularly want to thank the many employees in the room and not in the room who work behind the scenes to make this outstanding event possible, and all the others that you've seen for the community as well. Please join me in a round of applause for all of our team that's done such a great job. Thank you. I'm also very excited about the quality of people we continue to attract to the port. And I'm particularly pleased that during my first few months on the job, we have significantly increased the diversity of our senior management team. Nearly half of our team is now women and minorities. Thank you. This reflects the diversity of our port workforce and of our city. And I think it also bodes very well for our entire industry. From day one, I have focused on listening, learning, and building relationships with our port staff, of course, also with the leaders and the citizens of this great community, and also with the people and the companies who are integral to our success at the port every day, both here and, of course, all over the world. I began working very closely with our commissioners and employees, learning the ropes, drinking from the fire hose, as they say, and drilling down on the pressing issues facing our port. My second day on the job, I met with then Mayor-elect Garcia. We wanted to get to know each other, and he reciprocated by coming to our port on the very second day of his administration to meet with our entire team and share his incredible enthusiasm and love for the city and for our port. Since my relationship with the mayor, as well as his city management team, many of whom are here, as well as his city council, many of whom are here, these relationships have continued to blossom and become stronger and much, much increasingly effective. So thank you, Mayor Garcia, and your entire team. Thank you. Our participation in the Long Beach Civic Center project is evidence of the port's ongoing commitment to our city and everything that we're trying to accomplish as a community. From the beginning, I've been a very, very strong advocate that the city and the Port of Long Beach are one. And indeed, we are better together. So as you might imagine, the past 7 months for me has been a whirlwind. I have literally met with thousands of people and have had hundreds of meetings all around the world. My colleagues and I have traveled to Asia, to Latin America, and throughout North America, visiting our customers, our supply chain partners, and other major city ports. We listened, we learned, we strengthened relationships and built many new ones, and we developed a vision and a strategy for navigating through our current challenges to build the port of the future. Through all this, what became very clear to me is that the Port of Long Beach, for more than 100 years, has always been built on the foundation of visionary leadership, continually innovating and pushing the boundaries of what is possible. So I'd like to take a moment to show you what we've built so far. What an extraordinary achievement. Wouldn't you agree? We're all incredibly proud of our green port and the world's most beautiful port city. And the mayor and I have been all around the world now, and we've seen all these port cities, and trust me, this is the most beautiful. But that was then, and this is now. As Mayor Garcia asked me the first time we met, and we began talking about all the things, all the opportunities, and particularly our green port, he said, well, what have you done for us lately? And that was the challenge I needed. So, before we share our vision for the future, let's see where we are today. How is our business? At the Port of Long Beach, as you know, we move many types of cargo. About 1/3 of our revenue comes from crude oil, petroleum coke, cars, and other non-containerized freight. But we're primarily measured by the number of shipping containers, or TEUs, as we refer to them, that cross our docks. Those big boxes that carry the electronics, the clothing, the toys, the shoes, and all the other things that you and I buy every day. Our TEU volumes have largely recovered to pre-recession levels. However, our year-over-year growth was modest, with TEU volume up about 2%. In total, our port moved nearly 7 million TEUs. And with the US economy continuing to improve, with unemployment going down, gas prices heading down, resurgent manufacturing, and higher consumer spending, we expect economic gains this year. And the strengthening of the US dollar will mean that our imports will be growing faster than our exports again this year. These cargo gains are expected to translate into more jobs for the port, at the port, and throughout the region. Today, we support about 1 out of every 8 jobs here in Long Beach, or about 30,000 in total, and more than 300,000 jobs regionally, and 1.5 million across the country. With cargo and revenue growth, we can continue to reinvest in our port infrastructure and in our beloved community, and create even more jobs. Thank you. It's important to understand that we don't rely on tax dollars. Most other ports are subsidized by taxpayers, but not here in Long Beach. We are self-funding, and our revenue comes from leases to our terminal operators, as well as additional cargo fees. Because of our financial strength, every year we are able to transfer millions of dollars into the city's Tidelands Fund for important community and beachfront marina projects. We also invest billions of dollars in port operations, the development of terminals, roadways, bridges, and railroads, and all the infrastructure that makes the port work efficiently and generate higher revenues. We are focused on building the port of the future, one that has the highest efficiency and speed to market, one that is the greenest port in the world. To this end, we're improving the capacity and productivity of port operations, because the name of the game in the future is all big ships. Ports around the world are struggling to accommodate a new generation of super-sized vessels. But at the Port of Long Beach, we had the foresight to begin infrastructure improvements years ago, and today we regularly handle 14,000 TEU vessels, which are bigger than any other port is handling in the United States. Our current projects will allow us to handle the 20,000 TEU vessels that are currently on order by our customers. Now, to put this in perspective, a 14,000 TEU vessel is as long as the Empire State Building is tall. And it's also as wide as that 405 freeway out there, both northbound and southbound lanes combined, just to give you a sense of it. Also, our $4 billion capital improvement program which is the biggest among all U.S. ports, is on track, with over $500 million dedicated to capital spending this year alone, which is about 2/3 of our overall spending for this fiscal year. This means that we will employ up to 5,000 additional construction workers, most of the additional jobs and dollars going to the replacement of the Gerald Desmond Bridge, as well as the Middle Harbor redevelopment project. Now let's talk about these projects. They're incredibly exciting, but they're also extremely challenging. But our team has done, in my view, a remarkable job contributing their efforts to completing a significant amount of difficult and complex work. For the $1.3 billion Gerald Desmond Bridge replacement project, as you drive past, you can now see the new bridge taking shape and the ships going underneath it. Nearly 1/3 of the bridge's 351 piles have been constructed, and the rest will be done this year, with the foundations for these incredible signature towers beginning to take shape. This is a very exciting stage of the project, when this iconic bridge rises up to make its mark on our skyline. The towers will rise over 500 feet into the air, making the bridge the city's tallest structure. And besides adding to the skyline, the new bridge will increase capacity by about 1/3, speeding travel for thousands of our daily commuters, as well as improving conditions for trucks that today carry 15% of America's imports. Now, it won't be just wider, including the emergency lanes, but it will also provide a pathway for bicycles and pedestrians. Now, let's turn our attention to Middle Harbor. Everyone who tours this site knows that they have seen the port of the future. By summer, we will reach a major milestone for this $1.3 billion project, with completion of the first phase. By the fall, our partners, OOCL and Long Beach Container Terminal, can open Middle Harbor for business. Completion of Phase 1 will increase overall port container capacity by 10%, while reducing air emissions and ushering in an entire new era of advanced, sustainable, all-electric terminal operations. When both phases are complete, Middle Harbor will have the capacity to handle more than 3 million TEUs, increasing the port's overall capacity by 20% for moving containers. To give you an idea of the size, if Middle Harbor was a standalone port, it would rank as the country's 4th busiest port. So it's a massive thing. Our railroad and our efforts to build rail structures and infrastructure is also well underway. We're spending about $1 billion to improve our ability to handle more trains, many of them now stretching 2 miles in length. We're expanding our overall on-dock rail capacity from 23% today to a goal of hitting 35% over the next couple of years. Increased use of on-dock rail will significantly relieve truck and terminal congestion and dramatically increase the speed we move containers through our port. Now, port security is another key focus. Protecting people, the port's assets, and those of our customers and surrounding community is a top priority. We're extremely proud of our security team, which includes our Harbor Patrol, as well as the Long Beach Police Department, our Fire Department, the U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Customs, and of course the FBI. I want to take a moment to thank them for their service and give them a big round of applause. Just last June, the Security Division's virtual port brought us into a whole new era that supports daily operations, incident responses, and business recovery within and beyond the harbor complex. It combines data from many sources into a one-stop shop that generates a complete operational plan of activity in and around the waterfront. It is the most sophisticated and far-reaching system of its kind in the United States. We are also proud to announce that the first of 2 new fireboats are going to be arriving at the port in the coming weeks. These state-of-the-art boats, which are over 100 feet long and slightly longer than LA's boats, I might add, are much, much bigger and more powerful, ready to protect today's much larger vessels. So we're very excited about that. I know the Chief is as well. We also remain committed to the environment and are proud to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the adoption of our landmark Green Port policy. Environmental stewardship is really absolutely in our DNA. Today we incorporate clean technology and sustainable practices port-wide and are always looking for new opportunities for cleaner air, cleaner water, and of course, clean soil. Last year, we were honored to be named the world's greenest seaport. And that wasn't done by the port, that was done by many of you sitting in this room that understand environmental sustainability and stewardship. So, applause to all of you. We proudly announced last summer that diesel emissions at the port had dropped over 80% since the Green Port policy was adopted. And having spent previous years in the clean technology space, I can tell you that by anyone's standards, the port's emission reductions are an extraordinary success. Congratulations again to every one of you that have been involved in this. Thank you. Our port of the future will be a zero-emissions port. So we are continually testing and evaluating the newest technologies that will help get us there. We have invested nearly $200 million to install shore power at all of our container shipping terminals, allowing vessels to shut down onboard engines and plug into dockside electrical outlets. This is called cold ironing, and it greatly reduces air emissions. Last month, our commissioners approved an incentive program to reward shipping lines for testing alternative technologies. One such technology, which directly connects to the smokestacks of container and cargo ships, promises to achieve as much air emission reduction as cold ironing. So not only do we contribute to the health and livability of our community through our environmental commitments and efforts, we contribute in many other ways. For example, the Commission awarded $1 million last year in sponsoring Long Beach's unique community activities, including education and arts programs, our summer beach party activities, the Long Beach Grand Prix, municipal band concerts, plus parades and many other civic events. And to prepare tomorrow's leaders for the Port of the Future, we award dozens of scholarships and internships every year to high school and college students. So as you can see, we've accomplished many things, but our history and our tradition of leadership demands that we do even more. So where do we go from here? What are the major challenges and our path going forward? Well, clearly the single biggest and toughest challenge the port is facing is congestion, which poses a threat to our market share and a risk to future revenue growth. Given that we're not tax supported, our ability to manage this is critical to our future. And as I mentioned earlier, our business is growing, even though it's modest. However, overall shipping trade is growing much faster than we are, and we see global trade patterns continually shifting. Long Beach and the rest of the West Coast ports, while still dominant in the Asia-Pacific trade, are seeing cargo diverted to smaller, hungry, rapidly growing Canadian, Mexican, and East Coast ports. thereby posing a real threat to our business. Long Beach and Los Angeles, as a San Pedro Bay complex, have historically been the most direct route and most efficient route connecting Asia to the important and largest US import and export markets. But this has changed abruptly due to epic levels of congestion that we've been experiencing since last October. If we don't fix this immediately, we will drive away business permanently. So what's caused this congestion and how do we fix it? Let me break it down for you. It starts with the profound impact that large container ships are having on our business. These ships, which are here to stay and will only get bigger, significantly lower the cost of transporting ocean freight by reducing fuel and crew costs. To fill these big ships up, the ocean carriers have formed alliances with former competitors to consolidate their freight aboard these mega vessels. At the same time, most of these ocean carriers, in order to further reduce costs, decided that owning and managing chassis, which are the truck trailers used to transport containers to and from the marine terminals, were not core to their business. So the chassis sold to leasing companies led to some unintended consequences. First, let me explain that in the good old days, which is about 18 months ago, when ships were a bit smaller, ocean carriers employed a method of loading containers called block stowage. They grouped containers in blocks at the origin port based on destination and the mode of transport, either truck or rail. So a block of containers bound for Chicago by train would be stowed aboard the vessel together so they could quickly and efficiently be offloaded and sent on their way. We call this velocity. However, as ships have grown larger and formed, and resulted in more alliances being formed, the block stowage process has been severely compromised. Now, containers are being loaded by various carriers at multiple origin ports, resulting in a more random loading pattern. According to one of our terminal operators, his load plan looked more like a basket of Easter eggs than in organized blocks of colors. It's a phenomenal shift and change. So as you might imagine, these large ships, when docked at the port and the offloading begins, all the operators can do is quickly stack the containers behind them on the tarmac and in random fashion. To consolidate them back to a block based on destination and mode of transport, they have to hunt for these individual containers, restacking them and handling them 4 to 8 times instead of the normal 1 to 3 times. This has driven costs and through the roof, of course, and it has dramatically changed the game. To add insult to injury, we were suddenly faced with an unplanned shortage of chassis. The new chassis owners didn't have sufficient assets to meet our peak demands. They simply didn't plan for peak. And just to make things really exciting, the railroads ran short of rail cars because there was unexpectedly strong demand in other markets for those cars. So everything went sideways very, very fast. The terminals became so congested that there was little room to maneuver trucks, rail cars, and container handling equipment. The truck queues got longer, reducing the number of round trips our drivers are able to take. It took much longer to assemble full trains, and of course, as you've seen, the ships began backing up at anchor. On top of all this, the PMA and the ILWU contract negotiations took a serious turn for the worse in the fall. The West Coast ports found themselves in the perfect storm, and we are still in it. So how do we get out of this? Well, obviously, the terminals need to have full teams of labor back on the job in order to dig out of the current backlog. And while the port, thank you, I agree. And while the Port of Long Beach and other West Coast ports are not directly involved in the labor negotiations, we've been pushing the ILW and the PMA to resolve their differences and get a contract signed today. Long Beach has been very fortunate to have the leadership of Mayor Garcia and his counterpart, Mayor Garcetti, who were successful in urging both sides to accept a federal mediator. There's been some recent progress as reported in the news, and so we do have some reason to be optimistic. I'm thinking that they don't want to negotiate past the Super Bowl Sunday. So I'm really hopeful. Anyway, Mayor Garcia, thank you very much for your leadership on this. Now, regarding chassis, I think we have this one whipped. You know, our direct facilitation with the chassis operators for the last many months and with our counterparts at the Port of Los Angeles resulted in these 3 major chassis companies agreeing to form a gray pool of assets. This will greatly improve the availability and management of the chassis within the entire port complex. Now, the program begins testing next week, and by March, we're in full operation with our gray chassis interoperable fleet. We've also engaged discussions with the chassis operators to provide a peak relief fleet. We've shown that we'll do whatever it takes, including buying chassis if necessary, to relieve peak concerns or constraints. We simply cannot and will not let chassis contribute to congestion again. Taking all of this together, this entire perfect storm together, in my view, we must completely rethink and reorganize the way the supply chain works. Today, it's very fragmented. In many cases, it's silo-driven, and it doesn't share information. It simply does not function as an integrated system. So we have a choice. We can watch our business go elsewhere, or we can really come together as an entire team and industry to change the way our supply chain works. By using the latest information technology, we can efficiently move containers from origin through the ports, aboard trucks and trains, and speed them on to their destination. I am absolutely convinced that we can define a system-wide solution for all of our stakeholders to provide end-to-end visibility of cargo movements and greatly improve the way our partners communicate, plan, and execute. And I have no doubt that by working together as a team, which includes the Port of Los Angeles, and Gene and I are absolutely in lockstep on this, we will create a world-class system that optimizes efficiency and velocity within our port. And the big prize, the biggest prize of all in this effort, is that we will drive enormous costs out of the entire supply chain. So we've already begun bringing together our stakeholders, both ports working independently, and as soon as the Federal Maritime Commission approves our request to collaborate on a joint San Pedro Bay initiative, the Port of Long Beach will in fact work with Los Angeles to make this happen. Now, the Port of Long Beach, thank you. The Port of Long Beach is evolving, as you can see, along with our industry. It is no longer enough for us to just be a landlord port collecting rents, or building infrastructure, which we do so well, or facilitating solutions just for our direct customers, the terminal operators. We are now looking at the entire supply chain process and building relationships with every stakeholder in that chain. As a port authority, we are in a critical and perfect position to drive major improvements throughout our entire industry. No one else can do it. The Port Authority can. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So next I want to share our vision for how the Port of Long Beach and our partners will become the port of the future. And this is going to be so exciting. We will be recognized around the world for our innovation and teamwork, our commitment to operational excellence, and our ability to deliver economic growth and environmental sustainability. This transformation to the port of the future is already well underway. We have a compelling desire and a fundamental obligation to take our environmental stewardship to an even higher level. Our port of the future will be a zero-emission environment, one that relies on the latest technologies and practices to ensure that our port and our city and our entire surrounding region receive the lasting benefits of our commitment to being the greenest port in the world. With our Technology Advancement Program, we're supporting the introduction of the next generation of clean trucks, clean trains, and clean ships. Our new focus on supply chain optimization will solve our port's congestion problems and deliver strong economic and environmental benefits. While our team is doing an extraordinary job, an even greater opportunity to expand the scope of our green port policy exists before us. So now, I want to introduce you to an exciting new program we have codenamed Energy Island. Successful, sustainable operations that meet the challenges of our industry and our community will require clean, reliable energy. As we move towards our goal of becoming a zero-emissions port, we are increasingly reliant on electrical power. At the same time, the grid is aging, and there is increasing concern that a regional outage could cripple both the port operations and our Long Beach community. Energy Island will transform the port into a showcase for advanced technologies that harness the sun, the wind, the sea, and it will provide a self-sustaining, reliable energy system for the entire port of the future. We will also increase our economic competitiveness by providing alternative fueling to support clean transportation options and operations. Energy Island just won't protect our vital port interests in a large grid outage, but will provide dedicated emergency power to our community's critical operations, such as hospitals, police, fire, and city operations. In an emergency, we could operate indefinitely in a grid-independent mode. We also envision installing seawater desalination and water treatment facilities throughout the port to ensure a clean supply of drinking water. Now, we have 5 primary goals for Energy Island. First, we will advance the use of green power, both self-generated and purchased. Second, we will use self-generation to provide energy security and business resiliency. Third, we will reduce the demand on grid power and returning surplus green power back into the grid. Fourth, we will be able to provide our customers, the terminal operators, with stable energy costs into the future. And finally, Energy Island will provide cost-effective, advanced fueling opportunities throughout the port operations. So we've been meeting with a cross-industry team of stakeholders who will work with the port to develop Energy Island. And while we're taking the initiative and the lead on these things, we're not doing it alone. Throughout the port, we envision a network of solar panels, fuel cells, clean fuel depots, wind turbines, and other advanced technologies. Our port has long demonstrated our ability to deliver economic growth and environmental stewardship. These are 2 faces of the same coin. Energy Island will continue that legacy. So as you've seen this morning, we are committed to working with all of you, our customers, our stakeholders, to change the way the Port of Long Beach does business, and indeed the way our entire industry works together. Your port of Long Beach, is well on its way to becoming the port of the future. And together, our future starts now. Thank you very much for coming.